about it. Hello. At least I had to put on her smiley face because she was just looking at me, not very happy. Love being here.
Because my computer didn't want to work and my earphones are like...
Oh yeah, that's true. Your earphones aren't working and nothing's working. So that's not good. Well, welcome. As always, we will do the pre live show. Bloody hell, words don't work for me this week. It's like a declaration, but it's not. We will be saying spoilers.
Spoilers, everybody, spoilers.
If you don't want spoilers, maybe read the book and then come back. I've said it now. It's up to you whether you listen to me or not. We're starting a whole new series. Woo! Look happy, for God's sake. Oh dear. Oh dear. Hello Tafty, how are you? I finished the book today. Are we surprised? I'm not. I'm really not. I messaged Lisa this morning. Well, maybe this afternoon, when I've just finished this book. Nothing new. And it wasn't even because I was putting it off or anything. It just so happened that that's how it worked. And I finished it today. But it was good. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It was
Still not through me.
Not through your headphones.
Through my earphones. Can you hear me properly?
I can hear you, yeah.
Do you know why my mic weren't working?
No.
Because it weren't plugged in.
That was silly. What?
I looked at that. I was like,
this?
Stuck on my computer. Detached.
We've been doing this for like a good 3-4 years now. Come on.
It's just a couple of years, yeah.
You know, not that we're professionals or anything at this point, but
I don't know what you're saying. I am a professional.
I mean, this is the first time in ages that I've actually sat here. I did a live show yesterday with a very lovely, good Brian Wilson. Yesterday was the first time, but this is my first live show with you where I've actually sat here. And just to break the fourth wall, guys, to get this shot, you are balanced on an empty box and my washing basket. Professional.
So what you're saying
look how cool it looks with the books and the stuff.
What you're saying is you can't make any sort of moves because we might fall over.
Oh no, I got like a little room. It's almost like you're a fake desk, just there's no leg room underneath. It's pretty stable. Not that I'm an engineer, but I do project manage building of things. So I have.
But I did my thing.
I can't do the leg. I don't have room.
Toss leg.
Yeah. Little wicked reference for anyone who's got no idea what the hell we're on about. Yes, back to books. We are starting a brand new series. We are reading, or we have just read, Along the Razor's Edge by Rob J. Hayes, which is the first book in the Immortal Techniques thing.
War Immortals.
I always
War Eternals.
War Eternals, one of them. Right. It's a whole series. There's 5 books. What's wicked? Excuse me?
I'm sorry, sir. We can't answer that question right now because you will vex me, so.
Baffled. It was the movie with Ariana Grande. One of them was green, one of them wore pink. And it wasn't Shrek. Released really recently. Well, Shrek's also green, so just to mitigate any confusion. How can I remember the word mitigate, but I can't remember the word that is declaration, but not declaration? Who knows? It is Wednesday. But yes, we've started a brand new series. This is the first live show. There will be spoilers. And let's just get straight on into it. Lisa, what did you rate it? I can probably
just realised you can see my crochet behind me right now.
Yes, we can see that you're a crafty queen. Crafty.
But rating wise, was so surprised that I gave Rob J. Hayes 5 stars.
Shocker. I mean, that's never happened before.
Honestly, what did you rate? What did you rate?
I kept it at 5 stars because when I first read it, I gave it 5 stars. It was a couple of years ago, and I think if I was reading it for the first time, it may have gone down to a 4. But I don't know. Everyone's opinions are valid. We don't do that here.
You're wrong.
This is a safe space. Yeah, well, you know, you were wrong about What's-Her-Face in Legacy, so
You are never gonna let me live that down.
No, so shush. Anyways, if I'd have read it now without read it 2 years ago, it might have gone down to a 4 stars, but I kept it at 5. For reasons I will come on to talk about. I just have to quickly. I've heard of Granda. I think he means Glinda.
Glinda.
I've heard of Granda.
Glinda and Elphaba. I nearly called her Jezebel then. That's not it.
That's a Rob J. Hayes book. Honestly, Tufty also gave it 5 stars.
Go on,
it's a reread for me too. Loved it even more this time around. I think my only reason of like potentially putting it down to 4, which I didn't do, don't come for me. But the reason I could see myself having done that is mainly probably because I've become a bit more critical. I am trying to get better at that now. And I had a bit of a rant in it about critical reading in a recent vlog that has not gone out yet. I need to edit that to make sure that that's like, you know, PG and stuff. But I still really enjoyed it. Well, so well constructed with so much good stuff. It is, as always. If it's got anything to do with the sparkly vampires, I don't know who those people are. No, this is not Twilight.
Wicked. It's like a famous musical about Glinda, the Good Witch, and Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West.
It's the prequel to Wizard of Oz.
Jesus Christ, on a bicycle, Tufty. Wicked's been a famous like musical for years before Ariana Grande got her hands on it.
Yeah, but, I have in my trusty ticket box. I have my first ticket of when I first went to see Wicked, and I dread to think when that was. We're not going to look at that. That'll make me sad. Make me
feel old. That's gnarly, dude.
That's gnarly. Everything's gnarly.
Everything's. Oh, I was talking to my friends the other day about that. Like it's such a horrible song, it's such an annoying song, but you can't stop singing it.
It's so catchy, and the dance is like quite interesting. To be fair, I find it quite funny, only because not funny, haha. Like if you tried to do the dance, but literally just because of it's. Like, I don't know what this is about. This is
Abby.
This is K-pop, I think, and only one of them is Korean. That's the other thing that confuses me about this group. But we're not here to talk about K-pop. We're here to talk about books. Later.
Let's talk about Rob J. Hayes. Mr. Rob J. Hayes, the absolutely magnificent human being that he is, who we've spoken to before. We did an interview with him.
Yes, we have spoken.
Well, interview / discussing his third book that crushed me.
So now we're talking about Fortnite dance moves. We're not talking about Fortnite. No, not Fortnite, but close, actually. Totally not my world. Not mine either, mate, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, this is the first book in a 5-book series. It is a really good read. And if you have read it, which I hope you have, because we're about to probably get into some spoilers, I think that this is one of those books where I really enjoy being in one perspective, which is something. Hello, Cookie. Just in the background. Don't worry, I was on a live yesterday and I felt awful because for some reason, even though I told Jack I was on a live, he decided to call me mid-live. Everything was going off. My phone, my laptop is great. Very professional. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. But this is one of those books where I actually enjoy being in one point of view. And I will say that's not very common for me. I think it might be becoming a little bit more common now as I get older. And my reading tastes are changing again, as they always do. But sometimes I do struggle with one personality. I do struggle with one personality.
You have multiple.
one point of view, I should say, because I don't always feel like I'm getting a well-rounded view of the world that we're experiencing, which I think can be said for a lot of books, and I feel like a lot of other people also can feel like that. But I don't feel like this is that. But I think a big part of that, and one of the things I love about this book, is all the foreshadowing, however you want to say that word.
Foreshadowing.
Because it's like, oh, I've done this now, or oh, I've done this so many times now, or this is how I feel.
Yeah. It's like she's like chronicling her life to us, and she's like, right, okay, well, here I am now, and this is what I've done. And then when she says like, oh, I guess that's why I've murdered him. I guess that's why none of my friends are around now, or that kind of thing. And to know, well, by the sounds of it, that one of the characters I really like is still around, or was around for a long time.
That hard.
Yeah.
Look at me remembering names. That never happens. Anyways.
The fact that like they stuck together, kind of like, what, give me the one with the fuzzies.
Yeah.
Even though we do one with fuzzy things.
For a book that is this short, it's not really a short book, but compared to some of the other tomes that we have tackled recently, these books, legacy books, is about half the size, I would say, about a lot of the books that we have read recently, and there is so much crammed in without it feeling info dumpy. I will say one of the things that I struggle with about this book, but I also don't struggle about this book. This is not a world building book, personally. You are literally, and this is kind of like with single POV sometimes, you are literally in the mind of Escara. That is who you're in the head of, and you only know what she knows. You're only experiencing what she is experiencing at that point. So we get flashbacks of things that have happened to get her into the pit, which is where she starts the story. That is the prison that she is in. We get an overview of the pit and how that works, and the different people that are in charge, or just keeping not the peace, but battering the heck out of everybody.
Oh my god, I forgot how brutal that was to hear.
Yeah. Prig is a
prick. Pig is a prick. But yeah, I think he again, Rob has a good way of, like, sometimes when someone doesn't do the good things, is not a good person. He has a way of differentiating those between people that don't do good things because they've got to survive, and like in his previous series, it read the ties that bind. And then like for the difference from that to being an actual prick. He's like, no, who he's like, he says like, this is the guy you're supposed to hate. You're doing bad things, but we're not supposed to like it. There is a fine line between that, but like he gets that characterization. So like Rob and his characters, I'm saying like the friends, but like the way that he like formulates his characters, you know exactly what their purpose is.
Yeah.
For the most part, but for some people, not so much. But again, like when she thought she was in love, and she was so young, and she was like all gooey-eyed, and he was so great, and like.
You have to remember as well, at the start of this book, she's only 16.
Yeah, see, you know what?
The stuff that
I forgot that
has already gone through is, quite harrowing, if I'm honest. With the fact that she was a sorcerer in the war, but even just like the training leading up to that is ridiculous. The fact that the magic system in this is really interesting as well, with the whole, like, if you're a sorcerer, you have to swallow a source, and they can range from being like this big to probably the size, which is quite chunky, but you can't sleep. If you swallowed a source, you can't sleep. You could kill everybody. You have to take this thing called spiceweed, which makes you vomit them back up, which is equally gross.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
And you have to be acclimatized to these different sources. Like, there are 20 different sources and our main character, Eskara, is only acclimatized to 6. And
But the
even
fact
that,
that the only way you can find out whether or not is one that you can shoot to or not is by throwing it, which could then kill you.
Yeah.
And it's the whole thing where like it really does bring to the forefront like magic has consequences, and I do like the fact that he's brought magic into a world, but he's not done. And don't get me wrong, you know me, I do like the magic where you can just sort of like, you know, like you're an all-powerful being and you know there's no consequences physically to the magic that you create, sort of thing. But the fact that he's done it in his Rob way, hasn't he? Because he's not his books are not airy fairy, sort of like easy going, and nobody has an easy time. And if I met Esker as a person, I'd probably want to slap her because she's one of those.
Especially at this age, I think I'd be. Obviously, we haven't got to that point yet. We have to get through all 5 books, but I reckon by the time we get to the end of the books, that Esker might be a little bit more tolerable. Still very dark and stabby, but I'm cool with some stabby. That's fine. Like, I got no problem with
that. But she's a character that when you're reading about her and you can understand why she is the way that she is, the way that she's been brought up, like the stuff that she's gone through at the young age. It's not I forgot how young she was, but it's easy to put that to the back of your mind because everything else goes on. Like there's so much more. Like, and they call it a pit. It's when they called it a pit before I actually read the book, I was like, a pit? How can like what is? It's not just a pit. It's like an underground world, like an underground
prison.
He although it's not world building really, it kind of is. Like he does explain really well like the vastness of the pit and the size of it, and
it's essentially a massive work camp. That's essentially what
it's like, absolutely
it's a giant mine. These people get made to go and dig all day, every day for however long. I think it's like 8 hours, 8+ hours a day. Live enough, nothing but gruel. Don't really shower. Have no human rights, essentially. And the criminals that are down there range from Eskara and Joseph, or Yosef, whatever his name is, you know, being sorcerers for the enemy because there was a war and they were on the wrong side, to people who were like, whatever Hart was, I think it was like he was a
pirate, one who like the equivalent of a pirate. He called himself they called themselves something else, but him and his brother were pirates. And then down the pit you had murderers.
So there's like a whole range. Like there's no discrimination between where you are. Like you could literally be sleeping in the same place as someone who killed hundreds of people. And it's all about like how you got there. Like you could have just annoyed the wrong person.
Yeah. And essentially like what they were doing was killing people, but it's different to like being a cold-hearted murderer. Like obviously they were going down to the bit with people that were like hardened criminals. They were raised to fight in a war that they were made to believe in, like that they were on the side of good. And that's a whole other debate that I could get into on like the sides of good and bad of war when it comes to war. But like Joseph for me was it was a complicated one to like because obviously upon reread, because I knew how his story ended in book 1, I was very reluctant to sort of want their friendship because at first when I was reading it, I was thinking like, yes, he's a bit wet, he's a bit soft, but he's like the softness and reason to her harshness. And I was like, initially I was wanting them to be like, again, not this book, but you know when Rin in Poppy War is like up here and it needs someone to like ground her. So I thought that would be him for her. But upon reading, you kind of do realize how wet he is and how like easy it is to sort of. I'm not saying down there must be hard, like you know they were going through some shit, and she said that even she was tempted to take some of the things we're offering The reason she didn't is because basically she was saying that she was stubborn and she was just like she was not good. Like that part of it was just like absolutely not, and it really pained her to throw away all the nice clothes and food they were offering her. But obviously she was just stronger willed than him. Whether that's right or wrong, obviously we'll find out. But the fact that I don't know, the fact that he felt like he was so easily turned, but again, they were so young.
Yeah, but at the same time,
he didn't want to be in the war anyway, did he?
Yeah, well, throughout the whole book, anyways, there is Esker talking about how the people who were training them on their side were worried that he was going to defect anyways because of his thoughts on the war. They liked that she was so to see Cookie in and out. They liked the fact that Eskara was so for the war because she kept him on side.
Yeah.
Without her there in that room with the overseer, I'm not surprised he turned, because if he didn't agree with the war anyways and he didn't like the people, which he clearly says it's very much at the end of the book. Again, if you've never seen us do a live show, we jump around a lot. But I like that. At the very end, he's like, well, what's so good about the people that trained us? That it was hell. Like, I had to sit by your sick bed for days on end because of all the things you went through and how much you got injured. So obviously that took a toll on him. And again, he's probably like 16, 17 as well. So it's a lot to go through. And when you're meant to be like best mates, it makes sense. But at the same time, it kind of goes to show how much Esker, for right or wrong, has been brainwashed, for lack of a better word, into the cause that she was fighting for, because she didn't give it up.
Yeah.
Whereas he did.
Because he was saying, like you said, he said they stole us away from our families, like they've murdered all of his family, like and people in his village. So, like, and he was on the cusp, wasn't he, of like either side. So he saw he could potentially see both sides. But until you know the motivations behind that, that's the bit that we're missing in this bit, innit? Whereas like in previous books, we followed the people at the top are doing all the political maneuvering, and you can see whether right or wrongly, you know what their reasons are, whether they are right or wrong as to why they're doing what they're doing. Whereas when we are on the side of the people at the bottom and the people that have been crushed by everybody, we don't know like the reasoning behind why the full reason why these went to war. And and again in war, like, you never know who's right or wrong, like, and who was supposed to be rooting for. Like, should she have turned? Like, should she have gone onto the other side? Was he right by doing that? Were they on the side of the bad people? And obviously you can't justify torturing children the way that they did. And
no, but they didn't see it as torture, did they? And neither did Esker. In a way, she saw it as training, which again, right or wrong,
Stockholm syndrome, like what the fuck?
Yeah, but it does kind of make sense. Not that it's right, but it does make sense that they were in a war. They were training assets essentially, and that's all they were. They weren't people.
Yeah, and the fact that, like, even though she knows the pain that it caused her. Sorry, you can see cat, but the pain that it caused her. Like, he kind of craved using the sources, and even though before that whole showdown with Joseph, she was so tempted to see what that source was, just in case. But then she was like, no, because I could just be killing myself.
I'm just causing chaos, don't mind me. I do not think that would happen.
You're knocking shit over. I've got a cat that can't stay still and keeps jumping in out the window. We're professional.
You're doing really well today. Doing really well.
So well.
I'm going to stop doing that, because that's not good. I didn't drop any books. That's the main thing.
Good.
But yeah, I don't know. I didn't particularly. Again, this is a reread for me for the first book, so I knew how it was going to end. Vaguely, I kind of remembered. Again, it was 2 years ago, but I wasn't that besotted with Joseph anyways. Part of me, I've said this before in a review, and I'm going to jump again. The thing that made this book 5 stars for me the first time round was definitely how Rob handled the writing of Esker in general. So she is 16 years old in this book. She is experiencing her first infatuation with a guy, and I don't really remember, maybe I missed the detail of how old Issen actually is in relation to her. I don't know if he's like the same age or
I don't think he's the same age. He's not old. He's because he's actually a brother in it. So
yeah,
I in my mind, he's like 20s, early 20s.
right, okay. So like in the outside world, it's bad and wrong, but apparently in the pit, it's a bit normal. I don't know, but yeah, I think a few years older.
A few years older, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't like him from the start. Not surprised at all. But that again is reading it from not a 16-year-old point of view. And I think Rob did a really good job in just kind of encapsulating how it can be for the first time. Especially like this girl has fought in a war. She got chucked in a pit. Now she's finding that she likes this guy. And it all just turns out to be lust in the end. And I just think that the way Rob wrote the whole like build up, the leading on to the little bit of sexual moment that they have, which is awkwardly uncomfortable to read.
Yeah.
But that's the point, because it was her first time.
Her rose-colored glasses are coming off, and she's realised. But like it. But the thing is, when you actually, if you sit and think about it, like even that happens to people anyway.
Yeah.
So you're not surprised that that's happened to her, but the fact that, and the way that it's written, the fact that even though she's looking back on her life, she doesn't give us any idea before that incident happens that he's not actually what he says he's going to be, or what it comes across as he's going to be. So the first time I read that, I was actually quite shocked that it turned out to be that way, because he wasn't like, he seemed a bit moody, and a bit, but that was more of a case of, I thought, because she was a woman helping a man out, and I thought maybe his ideals in that respect might have been a bit ancient, but the fact that they were really close and stuff, and obviously she's really close to his brother, I just thought that he was the more wild one of the brothers, and well, until he lets his rage out and like murders people. So he was like the quiet but deadly one, and then his brother was the one that was all mouth. I just thought he was all mouth, because that's just, you know what I mean? But the sickening feeling that you get when the rose-colored glasses, not just taken off, like the glass is shattered as soon as he's done, she immediately regrets it. She immediately hates everything. And the fact that he didn't shy away from the gruesomeness of some of the things.
And I agree with that. And I also really, not liked is the wrong word, but
appreciated
how Rob writes it. And when Esker is looking back and we've got the future narrator talking, really liked how, because I actually did like how she was talking in the sense of, well, it hurt. I thought I'd done something wrong. I thought I was bad. I thought this, I thought that, but it's not me. It wasn't me. And I learned this because of X, and we get the name like Silver, which we don't know who this person is because they're in a future book. But like that little sprinkling of foreshadowing, like she was like, well, I found out that Issen isn't particularly a nice person in that regard. But I learned that it wasn't me. It's not on me because of this person that is going to get mentioned in later books. And I thought that was really nice. Let's be honest, if like most of us could probably go back and talk to our 16-year-old self or whatever age, and
don't do it.
But like at the same time, all those thoughts that you had when you were a teenager, regardless of whether it was a relationship or a friendship or anything, like now I could go back to myself and be like, it wasn't you. Like there's nothing wrong with you. You were not the problem. But when you're in that moment, you don't see that, and everything is on you. Everything is your fault. And I think Rob did a very good job at like getting that across. While
and
also
the fact that he does it as a male writing a female, at no point do you like, because some books I've read, you can tell that a male's written it, and it's like they try too hard to make the female either really strong to a point that she's arrogant and she's totally insufferable, or they make her mild a damsel in distress. Like, but he toes that line. Like he makes her strong-willed and stubborn in some ways, but it's stubborn not for the fact that she's a woman, it's the fact that she's been through shit. And things have made her that way. But again, when she goes through things that obviously everyone has a first time, but that first experience from a female perspective, and the fact that he's written that so well was just like, I really, really appreciate him for that. And it's just, he does write women in general, from what I've read so far. He does write them really well, and you can tell that he's obviously has sensitivity readers, all right. He has some kind of research behind him, because and maybe he just knows, and he's just a really good writer. It could be either, but I think it goes into his character work, doesn't it? Like, every character is distinctive. Crazy old guy that was like, oh, for the mazes. It was just fucking hilarious.
I buried this before, and now I've come back and been here from a different life. I'm like,
do you know the time when she was she thought she was thinking, and so it clapped to him. It was like, listen, or think, or something like that, when it was feeling for the breeze. That reminded me of in The Lion King when he knocks Simba on the head. I myself giggling out loud to that bit.
That is true. Oh, yeah, I did think, though, this is a good point. I often wondered how they found and identified the sources when Tamara found the one he'd hidden. This is the point where I was just like, hang on, surely, if you'd been here in a past life, you'd find a way to avoid coming back. Like, it doesn't seem like the sort of place that you'd want to go back to. I don't know if he is literally just screw loose, or if he is just...
He's like one of those...
riddle.
He's like, it feels like he's so intelligent, but he's been through some shit that part of his brain snapped.
Yeah, it's like PTSD.
That's the thing that I get from him. I don't think he's just a crazy one. Obviously, he's been down there a long time. I think there's way more to him than we know, and obviously we're going to find out eventually exactly what. Well, I say exactly. She still talks about him in like the later terms as like he's always been that way. He's always been a bit like,
he's always been,
he's still like that. But it feels to me, the way that it's sort of leading, that he is this really intelligent person. Obviously, some things happen to him to make his mind snap. But he obviously. It feels like a mystical thing, like he can feel the breeze, and it's like, I don't know, there's obviously something more to him than meets the eye, but to this point, I've read it twice now, and I still have no fucking idea. I just know that he was the light relief in the book. Like, there was so much trauma that was discussed. And it was constant, just like shit after shit, like beatings and stuff. And then she met him. And he, like, sort of, well, the first time.
He was always smiling.
It's very disturbing.
Out of all the places, like, fair enough.
And he was just like, how he hid her, but didn't do it, like, just sort of. And, like, they seemed very wary of him, like, the assholes that. Like, sort of like ran the pit and like they were
it's almost like they knew
all his friends.
But I mean, not being funny. If he just came at you with like pure like, one, speaking in riddles, and two, like just constantly smiling, I think it would creep anybody out. Like if you're
Yeah.
trying to batter people and they're just coming up to you, like, pretty much like morning, ready for another day. Ding it. I think you would like they'd be like, right, I know there's something wrong with me, but
And
there's
the way that
more wrong
they
with you.
left him alone, like they obviously know there's more to him than meets the eye because they left him alone. If they thought he was just some crazy old man that they could just
They
beat
would've
down on, yeah, they'd have killed him ages ago, especially Prick because he's a prick.
Yeah.
But there's that to me is like that gives you the mystery. But every now and again, when you get a little bit of like, because he can fight as well, like he's seriously like he's a demon clearly, yeah, but he's seen some shit, and like maybe I don't know, it seems a bit like a not a foreshadow. What's it called? He sees things.
Like a seer.
Yeah, maybe he's like I don't know,
Clever.
and he seems to see the things that attach together. Like he knows a path like he's supposed to go down, and I don't know what kind of person that is supposed to be. But you know what I mean when you get those people that in books where they, you know, like usually it's an old lady in it that turns up, and the mysterious old lady that you know gives you a bit of a hint and a bit of a riddle, and it seems like one of them. But yeah,
I now really want to know what this book is. I read a book that I know is on Chelsea's shelves that handles the lady stuff from a dreadfully male POV. Great. It's horrific. 1 star. Loved it in the bin. Not joking. Awful. Brilliant. Can't wait to figure out what that is. Rob handles it so much more elegantly. I wonder if he has a sensitivity reader. Do you know what? He probably does. I think
he did say that his wife reads.
I think his wife reads
yeah
pretty much everything, and even if that isn't technically classed as a sensitivity reader, I'm sure if she had feedback,
yeah,
say, and she might have some things to say about.
Yeah, if her husband wrote a woman in the wrong way, I am sure they should be like, Rob, absolutely not.
Can't do this. That's not right. Don't do that. Tomorrow is a badass with moves. He moves a lot more easily than his apparent age, yeah, which is why I think there's a lot more to him. What a fabulous working relationship because it works. Wow, it's just like us, isn't it?
We work well together sometimes.
All the time. We always work well together. We just don't always do the work together.
Unless your opinion is wrong, then we don't work.
Which yours is, but that's
fine. So character-wise,
yeah.
We don't really meet a vast array of characters.
No, we get stuck with a lot of the same people. Yosef can get in the bin. Isan can get in the bin. Brig can get in the bin. The Overseer can get in the bin. Esker is pretty cool. Tamara is probably my favourite, although I think he's tied with Hart. I quite like those two.
Yeah. Like, I see, and that wasn't a surprise to me that he turned out to be some, I don't know what he is, I don't know what his deal is, because we didn't get really an explanation as to why he goes the way that he does. But from the fact that he was like, he was described as like this really big guy that you know could clearly fight, and the fact that like he didn't want to fight and he tried to stay. I knew from the moment that the stuff started going on that there was clearly something and a reason why he didn't want to fight.
Yeah.
Not just the fact that, you know, it reminds me of the character that like needs to stay zen because he will go into like a fucking rage thing, which he did.
Feral.
Yeah, he just turned in feral. And again, clearly he's actually been through shit for him to, whether that's, I don't know whether it's a trauma response that he does that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I want to know more about him.
To be fair, I missed one. Esker is upset that Yosef kept his discussions with the Overseer a secret, which I can understand because he was swapping sides. But so too did Esker. She didn't reaffirm her approach or check in with Yosef. So who's to blame? Who's at fault? Is Esker's anger at Yosef justified? I would say potentially. I don't know. I think the hard thing is we never get to be inside Yosef's head, so we don't really understand what he's thinking. But
I can what? And we never will, because R.I.P. Yosef.
Yeah, he's a bit dead now. But what I can understand from being in Eska's head is they, as we said earlier, they grew up together, they trained together, they were partnered, they were best friends, they did everything together, and suddenly he's keeping secrets from her, and
yeah,
he's like, what the like the Eurovision song, what the hell just happened? That's the other thing that I see a lot of at the minute. Let's see the song that gets stuck in my head. Anyways, I love a good pop culture reference. Look at me. But I think from being in just Eska's head, then yes, possibly it is justified, and especially at the end when it comes out that obviously Yosef has got a brand new clean uniform. He smells clean. No one smells clean in the pit. Everyone stinks. And he, you know, has turned tail essentially as she thinks. And I understand that Eska wasn't communicating with Yosef, but
that's because she wasn't. I think,
having been a 16-year-old girl, we're not the nicest people. We don't think it's straight line.
Because she, in her mind, she was like, so even though she was tempted, she was very much in the camp of, I'm not going to do what they've asked. I'm not going to turn, not going to work for them. Even though she knew Yosef wasn't agreeing with the war the way that she was, and like had a different thought to it. She thought that naively, obviously, because he'd betrayed her before, like she naively thought that obviously if he was tempted to change, or like if anything was to go on, that he would tell her. And even though she hates him, even though she hates him for betraying her, she said it before though. She does say that even though he did sort of like conquer on the head and like allow her to get caught, the reason why he did that is so that she didn't get killed straight off, because she would have got killed straight off. So even though she hates him for that, and she does have those conflicted emotions, which again do come up quite a lot. It does come up quite a lot. That she has these conflicted emotions about she wants to hate him and she hates him for what she did, but she loves him for the fact that they've been through so much shit together.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well, especially with that moment where he did hit her on the head and they both got taken into custody, he took all of her power away from her, essentially. He took her choice. There was no, like, it seems very much that in Eska's head, she's like, we are a partnership. We are together. Like, not romantically, but it is us against the world. We will make these decisions together. And in that moment, there was no decision together. There was just him going, bonk, off you, like, you know, no more. Like, and she's waking up going, why have you done that to me? Maybe she would have preferred to die. And, like, that's quite a sad thought because of how young she is. But war, would she have preferred? And it's kind of hard because the pit is horrible and living is better to an extent in certain situations, but maybe to her in the pit where she is constantly like groped and jeered at for being a young girl, and they make comments at her and she hasn't eaten a full meal and she's never clean, maybe it is feeling worse than a death alternative at that moment in time, you know.
Maybe mention though that she is thankful for the grime and the smells and stuff, because that's is what gone in her favour, because of the men that she was down there with and the people she was down there with, and that thought is just horrible.
No, not rainbows and unicorns. At 16, I think I don't want to think about what I was like at 16. Wasn't a fun time. Where does this book rank in amongst all the Rob J. Hayes that you've read? I think it's my favourite. This is definitely probably my favourite, I think.
Definitely probably is a great phrase.
What?
You said it's definitely probably my favourite?
Definitely probably my favourite, yeah. Buffering. I think this is probably my favourite that I've read so far. I don't know if it will be my favourite forever. But
so many books to go through yet at the moment.
Not being funny. If I move my head, this shelf up until here, all of this
is good old Robert.
All of that is Rob. Yeah, I'd say this is my favorite. Maybe it's because it is the first book that I actually officially read of Rob's books, or maybe it is just because of how much I kind of clicked with Esther as well.
I think if I'd have read this first, probably would have been my favourite.
Yeah.
But because my first foray into Rob, that sounds wrong, into his books, was the Ties That Bind trilogy. Don't ask me to pick a book in that because I won't. But that series is probably I'd probably say the last book. I'm lying to you. I will pick a book. Probably the last book is my favourite in that one. Because of the way things come together in that series. But yeah, if I had read this first, I could totally understand why everybody totally falls in love with Eska and like really roots for her, because she is like the strong-willed character, but she's not overbearingly arrogant, and she just like she's
not. I think because it's written in almost, it is single POV, but because it's written almost in dual timeline, I think the whole like looking back on her life tones down the arrogance of 16-year-old Eska, because no matter what she's gone through, and she's gone through a lot of shit, I feel like 16-year-old Eska is like, the world can't touch me. Like I am it.
I don't know, you know. I think she kind of acted like that, because she had to be strong. If she came across as weak, she would have been trampled by more than Frigg.
But at the same time, I feel like she didn't come across as so much with so much self-doubt until her and Isin hooked up.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh my god, what have I done? I can't believe I've done this.
There was no consequence. She didn't think of the consequences of her actions.
Yeah. Which, funny, I'm not surprised. She was 16. But 16. Along the Razor's Edge was my first Rob J. Hayes. It happens, then Never Die. Haven't read that. Got it on my shelf though. And then Ties That Bind. It's a very good series if you haven't read it already. Ranking of Rob J. Hayes series joint episode in the future. Let me read the rest of his books, and then maybe we can talk.
Come back in 3 to 5 years.
When the rest of the bloody Herald trilogy of
the trilogy of trilogies, when that is done, we can rank his books, and then by the time we've ranked it, it'll have another 6 books out.
Well, that's true. I'm excited to learn more of the sources. Eska mentions how little the tutors actually knew and what she has yet to learn. Exciting. I am looking forward to getting more of an understanding of the magic system. Not being funny, right? Where this book ends, because we kind of skipped over that, we are still in the pit. We are not actually in the pit. They have managed to kind of escape, and they are in some duct in the wall, essentially. We don't know why it is the way it is, or anything like that. There's so many questions I have. Like, how the hell?
There's so many unknowns in there. Like
a whole place with like halls and staircases. Where has that come from? I don't understand. Where are they? Why are they there? But also, there is so much of this world to actually learn about, and I don't know. Is the next book going to be a whole book of them still getting out of the pit? I don't know. When are we going to see this guy?
It's called Lesson Learned, though, isn't it?
Well, she learnt a lesson in this book. Don't eat where you poop. No, don't poop where you eat. It's the wrong way around.
Same difference, though.
I don't think there is much difference. Just don't do that. Don't defecate and eat in the same place. Like,
I want to see more of her relationships with both Tamura and Hart.
Yeah.
But I wonder who else they're going to come across, and when we're going to find this other person that she mentions.
Silver.
Yeah.
Maybe he lives underground as well. Who bloody knows? I did think Yosef was going to last a little bit longer than one book, to be honest.
Kind of glad
when I originally read this series, he doesn't. He dies in this one.
Oh,
after throwing up his guts because he has a source. And Eska tries to kill herself by eating the unknown sauce that was in her pocket.
Oh my god, that bit! I was like, seriously?
Also, bearing in mind, right, that has been in that tunnel for God knows how long, how many lives since Tamara has, lived. No mention of it being wiped, at least. Like, God knows what.
It was a life or death situation. It was a life or death.
Like, not being funny, you put that into your body, and it is a life or death situation, regardless of what the bloody stone does. Infections are rampant. You don't have access to doctors in the pit. Like they get patched up because they used all their bandages on bloody Issen. Useless.
Oh.
No consequences. This is the lesson. The next book, Lesson Learned, is her getting pneumonia from eating that stone, or something worse, typhoid. I don't know how you get typhoid, but that's what that is. No.
Oh my god.
That's the other thing as well, going back to that really uncomfortable sex scene, which is uncomfortable for a reason, but they both stink. Neither of them have showered. There is no protection of any kind. So we've got typhoid and we've got an STD going on. Like, what?
Maybe she's pregnant.
Well, she does mention about that thing growing inside her, which I don't think is a baby, but
might be a demon.
Demon baby. Amalgamation of all of it.
Dirt baby.
Yeah, scuffing around in the dirt as a child is a good thing, but not eating God knows how many years encrusted rocks. And the other thing, unwashed. Like, come on. Playing in the mud and having a mud kitchen is a completely different situation. Young lust living it up in a darkened corridor special. Yeah, well, it was just as well in that moment afterwards when, like, she's there, like, oh my god, everything he does now, just I've got the ick. Everything is gross. Stop touching me. Go away. And he, like, pats her on the leg and goes, give me a minute and we can do it again. And I can just I can her face of, like, pure disgust of, like, get your hands off me.
Even I cringed at that bit. Like, and I visibly, like, was like, ugh.
And typical, not all men, but typical expected teenage boy response, there's plenty of other rooms that we could use. Get the hint. Stop touching me. I am now put off. Gross.
But the fact that she, like, when that whole rose-coloured situation just totally shattered, the fact that she realised that he was actually a prick as well, just in general, he wasn't
as good looking as she thought he was.
No, and the fact that he was an actual horrible person, and she was just a bit of a wimp as well, and was scared of something just because it was different, and he was actually just a total asshole. It's horrible that she had to go through that for that to become a thing.
Yeah.
But again, the way is not surprising based on how Rob writes and the things that Rob puts in his characters.
There is no.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. If only I knew when I was that age. So do you know what? Part of me is like, I really wish that I knew then what I know now. And part of me is like, do you know what? I think it's better that I don't.
Yeah.
Ignorance is a kind of bliss. And just gonna stick with that. Could have saved some problems, but that's all part of growing up, I think.
Oh God, don't talk about growing up. I'm still not an adult. I don't like to adult.
I'm told I'm an adult. I had this conversation with my friend the other day at work. I was like, when did you start feeling like an adult? Bearing in mind, he's married and got a baby. And he was like, oh, when I introduced my parents to my son. And I was like, wow, I still have some time to go then. I have no baby. Maybe that's when I feel like a grown up. I don't think so. What age person would you recommend this book to?
Adult.
18 plus?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I look, again, the things that I wish I kind of knew then that I know now. Some of the books that I was reading at this age, as in Esca's age 16 and younger, probably should.
See, that wasn't me. Like, my friends like used to read fan fiction and dirty smutty teens and stuff. And
I didn't
like,
mean to. I will say.
no, they
Read
purposely
fanfiction.
did.
But I was I like 13 maybe? I can't remember how old I was when Twilight came out, and therefore all of the following vampire things.
Yeah.
I read a lot of House of Night, and if anyone has read House of Night, you may understand that it starts off PG because she is in high school, but it quickly descends into not. And I was just like, don't even know how many books into that series. It's a big old series, but I devoted time, and suddenly I came across that, and I was like, whoa.
The worst thing, the most smutty thing I read when I was younger, and this wasn't when I was a teenager, whenever 50 Shades of Grey came out, I was older then anyway, because I'm an old lady now, but I would have been like late teens, early 20s, whenever that was. And
I was definitely in school, because I remember my friend had the trilogy and she lent it to me to read, and I was such a goody two-shoes. I think I read the first few chapters, and by the time it got dirty, I was like, no, and I buried it in my wardrobe so my mum couldn't find it. So I was like, I don't want her knowing that I've tried to read this.
But I was at the point where, like, I skipped most of the sex scenes in that because it got repetitive and boring, and you realise the more that I read that it was just really bad literature. Really badly written books.
For one person and one person only. I'm a professional 12-year-old. Good. Sounds like you'd want the younger persons to have gained perspective. Yeah, but I don't want 13-year-olds to gain this perspective. That's where I was going with that 13-year-old thing. Reading things that I probably shouldn't have been, because there wasn't a me to tell me not to read it. Which is quite funny, because now, with my sister being 10, when she starts finding other books to read, it's going to be fun, because I don't know how I'm going to approach that. Of like,
maybe don't read that one.
I did put her off Wicked at Christmas. She wanted to have the Wicked book, as in the actual original story, in which Elphaba is not Elphaba, and she is a little green, pretty much gremlin with sharp teeth and a lot more vicious than she is portrayed in the musical. And I went, mate, maybe wait a few years. And she listened to me, which I was like, amazing. Didn't expect her to, but she did. So we'll see if that carries on when she gets into the older books. My first smutty book was a thriller with a rumpy pumpy scene. I skim over the smut nowadays, just cannot read them. That's fair enough. I've really got into my fantasy romance books, but not the stuff that Lisa reads. I'm still pretty tame.
My first proper smutty book. The thing is, the different. It's not the smutty stuff that sort of like. It's the content that Rob writes about. That's just like it's the trauma that although he does it so well that it makes me feel sick at times when he describes things, which is a good thing for people who don't know, the fact that he can evoke that reaction from you. But like I said, like my friends have all grown up like reading fan fiction and stuff that I never read. So and I didn't read anything really violent until I was in my like early 20s, because that's when I got back into some kind of reading. So for me, I appreciated the fact that I didn't have to deal with any of that trauma. Although I did at one point try and read, those true stories about children being tortured.
Oh, I tried to read one of them way too young.
And there was one where a child got the hand put on a oven hob. I read one of them about a child, something like
Roma.
Yeah. So I've read books like that, but I just think if you could preserve not necessarily naivety, but if you could preserve a child or a young person's out like does a young person really need? Nobody needs to read about trauma, but you know what I mean. Like
I think this a lot, because like I am one of those readers that never stopped reading, and that's completely fine. Like the people that did and took a break. My best mate was one of those people, took a break, found ACOTAR, fell in love with reading again. Fair play. But I definitely zigzagged. And although you might not guess it now, surrounded by fantasy books, I massively went off the deep end into like contemporary YA stuff at one point. And when I was probably from 13 to maybe 18, 19, I was reading a lot of like the contemporary books, like Brighter Things. Is that a book? Something like that. All the Bright Things. That involved teenage suicide. A book called Trouble, which was about teenage pregnancy. There was another book. I know, I just read some like serious, and like if my sister brought these books home, like I feel like looking back reading those books, they gave me a view of things that I never experienced because I was never a teenage pregnancy person. And then so it gave me like a view on that. There was another book I read that I can't remember the title of, but it was about a girl who had been swapped at birth, and her mother that adopted her or took her home had Huntington's disease, and that's an inherited disease. Like if your mum had it, you've got it. So she did the test and she found that she didn't have it, and she found out that she wasn't even related to her mum, and that spiraled in her finding this girl who she'd been swapped with and her real parents, because she felt like, one, she had her life robbed from her because her mother wasn't actually her mother, and she had to deal with her going through that disease and eventually dying from it, but also to tell this girl, by the way, you might want to get tested because this is a serious thing that's going to affect you. So there were selfish things to it, and again, that's something that I've never thankfully experienced. So it was something that's quite traumatic, and people do go through. So you get that. But at the same time, did that need to be in the 12 to 14-year-old section? No, no, it didn't.
Yeah, I think we could go in. I think we could go into like what books should and shouldn't be read. I don't think that
everyone has the right to read whatever the heck they want, and you will.
I would say adult, like whatever you class as an adult, whether that's 18 and above, whether that's you know what I mean, like the legal age. I think that Rob's books are definitely, from what I've read so far, are adult, and I wouldn't want to expose a younger mind to any of that, just because.
No, and it's also a lot of swearing. Not that I'm against kids swearing or for kids swearing. I have no opinion. I don't have children. But you know, I don't. Speaking from my sister's point of view, I wouldn't want her at the ripe old age of 10 reading all the swear words in this book. You know?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an adult book, whatever that means to you. Yeah. But I think it firmly sits in that, and it's a good. I think that if you want to get into like reading fiction and you don't like the airy fairy stuff, when people think of, when I used to talk about fantasy, people were like, oh my god, wizards and stuff. I'm like, no. There's more. No.
But I do also think that with the rise of TikTok and BookTok and Bookstagram and stuff, and the books that are being recommended on there, I feel as though books that are maybe, I mean, point proven, Jay Kristoff is not a YA writer. His books are not for young audiences. They keep being put in that section. They are not. And even he says it all the time. He's like, my books are not for younger audiences. My books are adult books. Put it back.
Yeah.
You know?
People are more conscious of what is YA and what people that are in the sort of reading.
Many people read these things and they're hyped. If you find that on TikTok, my sister's on TikTok, but I don't know what it's set up as. I don't know if you can control what she sees or whatever. Nothing to do with me. But if there aren't those things on there and she sees, oh, Verity is promoted on TikTok. Everyone's reading Verity. I should read Verity.
No,
you shouldn't. But I think because of the way that social media is working as well now with like promoting books, and it's great for authors, do not get me wrong. You hit the algorithm, your book gets great sales, fantastic. But I feel like it can also be shown to the wrong audiences by accident, not through anyone's want. and that can then spiral into the wrong people are reading your work. And yeah, I don't feel like explaining what that is to my sister. Because I'm not going to be the person that teaches her that word. If she learns that word and comes to me with it, that's fine. We'll talk about it. But I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I use that word. I use that word a lot.
So do I. Not around her.
No, and that's just because, like, I think it's not a Yorkshire term, but because I've been around people that, like, you know, for instance, family up in Scotland, down south, they use it as a term of, like, and when I went to uni, they used the guy was from it's like calling you an idiot, isn't it? You bloody idiot! Like someone called one of the guys I sing around with used to call someone a mugger, cunt. You Maggie, get all the time. But that was just, it's more, again, that word nowadays is more used than.
You chat a bit more than I do, but I will say as well, it's not a defense, but just for context, I work in a male-dominated situation, and it's not. I like the teams I work with. They are lovely chaps, but not necessarily the most refined parts of the community. And they shout all sorts of things at each other, let alone, other people they don't like. So
yeah,
I put up with a lot. I prefer a fruity book to what is the definition of that?
Fruity is where I think where you get, like, you don't get the full on smut scenes, like full on,
like
but you get for Fade to Black, and you get the flirting, and you get the, like, closeness and the romantic stuff, and then when it goes to the bedroom or to sofa,
or to floor, or to corridor.
It's like, all right, and then the next day we would
yeah. The next day I woke up and I smelled eggs cooking.
Yeah.
I was going with fruity to mean sweary. Oh, so you wait. So you prefer swearing than smut? Is that what you mean? Sorry, I'm.
Oh right, I thought you meant fruity.
Yes, what I thought. Yeah, but Fade to Black for me though. Here, Esker, very specific purpose. Yeah.
Yes. If a scene's got a purpose, I will.
Well, that's my thing as well, and what I appreciate about Rob is that there is no. I'm not going to call it smart, because the way Rob writes sex scenes is not smart. Like, there is, it's not, like, it's very much like blunt and to the point. He puts it into his books for a purpose. It's not just because they felt like it, or it is because they felt like it, but for a different reason. You know, like,
everything that he puts in his book has a purpose. Yeah, he's a purposeful writer.
Yeah.
I can't remember when we spoke to him whether he said he was a pants or a planner, but
bit both. I think.
You definitely do know, you do see that it doesn't half-ass anything in his writing. Like, there's no scene, there's nothing within his books that's there just as filler, which is why I think everything seems to go at such a fast pace.
Yeah.
It's because, like I said, it's a smaller book than some of the bigger fantasies.
Yeah.
Definitely smaller than Herald. So I'm curious to find out how his pacing and thing works in a larger book.
Yeah.
But, like, with this series, everything is sort of really fast paced. And I think that works. But like I said, nothing is filled. Everything has a purpose. Everybody has a purpose, even if it's just to get killed at the end. And yeah, it was great.
No, that's true. I love this book, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of them, to be honest. I think there's a lot. I can't even make a prediction about where because I don't know, because it's so much of her looking back on her life, but also obviously getting the present day as well, or like her present day in past tense. They've got to escape the pit at some point for her to do all the stuff that she keeps talking about, but I just don't know when or how it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, they'll come a cropper, aren't they? Like something else is going on. So, and obviously we were left with a very ominous suggestion that like there's more things to come. It will be interesting to see whether or not this is just going to be another book that's in the pit, but not the pit, but there's like this underground situation, or whether they're going to get out and just be met with more people. But I would like to know why. I'm with my cat. I would like to know, like, obviously, this whole pit setup. Who runs this? Obviously, you've got the overseer that runs the inside of the pit, but like,
who's his boss?
Is this like how
where
is
do
it?
They get the food?
Yeah, where who's organizing this shit, and why do they think that that's okay? But anyway, yeah, there's so much more that you could go into, and I'm hoping that we've not necessarily deep dive into all that, because then the books would be a million years long.
And they're definitely not. I think they're quite.
Yeah, they're quite thin compared to some of the series we've read.
Yeah.
So
still managed to crack the same, if not similar, wallop. You know, like.
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely packs a punch with his
short book. This book is 5 books long. This series is 5 book long. Sorry. And Legacy, I compare everything to bloody Legacy. I love that series. Legacy is only 3, but every book of Legacy is probably over like 500 pages, 600 pages.
Yeah.
Whereas these, I don't even know if they go over 4.
No, and that's a skill. He's packed in so much within this book, and from where we started to where we end, it was a short period of time, but they still packed a lot in. They still spent days digging a frigging tunnel, and you know they've been through a lot. Like so, yeah. I just I'm eager to see, and I probably will start the next book in the next couple of days, because I was really tempted to just move on to book 2 straight away, and I was like, no, because
it was hard not to continue. And I agree, it is hard not to continue. I mean, obviously, it happens. I read the first book 2 years ago, and this is the first time I've gone back to the series. That's nothing to do with Rob. I think I will wait until we have decided a date a little bit closer to the time, to not forget stuff, because I'm very good at forgetting stuff.
You are, but so am I. Both really bad at names.
As each other ish.
Yeah.
Depending on the day.
But yeah, I think we've discussed everything, haven't we? The weird thing about this is that I love books like this.
Yeah.
Because like they're so short, and we don't have to we don't end up having like massively in-depth conversations about it. But I do also like the series that we read. Like, I'm gonna mention it, Legacy. It's like full of political intrigue, like the Weaver and stuff. The fact that like there's 2 different styles.
Yeah.
But they pack the same punch. Like they pack a punch in different ways, and they impact you in different ways, but they are still both impactful books. But I also think that is totally down to the writer. Totally down to the writer.
Oh, 100%. But I also think that with Legacy, there was no way that we could have touched on every single point that was in that book. Whereas,
oh my god,
Rob's
book, 11 hours.
I know, it's a little bit easier to touch on like the main points that we found were main. That's the thing as well to remember with this, is that because it's us reading and reviewing the books and talking about it, it's what stood out to us. So
yeah,
if you're watching this live and you've read the book and you go, well, you didn't mention my favorite part, always bring it up in the comments. Like, let us know, because it might trigger something. But at the same time,
probably like, oh shit, we forgot that this massive death happened. I mean, it's but we didn't miss anything like that, like death wise. But we did mention the people that had been down there.
Narrow it down slightly, please.
The people that they killed, that like they looked like they'd been like down there, like scavenging, like eating each other.
Yeah.
That weren't like the little goblin-y things. Those scared the shit out of me. Would not want to see those. Absolutely not. and the fact that like one of them was killed and then they all just like
ate each other. Yeah.
No.
Boot full. But yeah. The next live will be, I need to look up what the next book's called because I'm not good at live.
The next live will be on my channel.
It will be
in May, June sometime. Beginning of June.
Yeah, these aren't long books, so we can do it.
No.
Earlier.
We can do it beginning of June.
Lessons Never Learned. I think it's
Lessons Never Learned. Oh, so she didn't learn a lesson.
Obviously not. That makes me feel
we totally did that. Lesson learned. No, lesson never learned.
Yeah, I have the arcs somewhere. I've put them bloody somewhere. I've done this with everything. I need to rearrange my life because it's just a mess. What you see is actually calm and collected, but this is not a true representation of the rest of the like this shelf here looks good. This is double stacked. There are more books back there, but I can't see.
Shh, we don't need to know that. But yeah, this was fun. I'm really excited to finally continue with another Rob J. Hayes series and tick off some more of his plethora of books off my list. Yeah. Speaking of another Rob J. Hayes book, I have The Herald to read this month, which I'm excited about.
That's a big old book.
It's a big old weapon.
You're reading it physically? Yeah. What your books out? Oh, I missed something.
Oh shit!
Yeah. You giggling at me like, oh, don't be so silly. I'm reading a physical book. I don't think there's an audiobook. There might be.
I need to check. That's something I need to check. I'm sure. The novellas were both on audio.
Oh, then maybe it is. Maybe I missed it.
Don't you scare me like that, woman. I will find out. But yeah.
Behind Velocity Weapon, currently right behind it, this is The Magician by Raymond E. Feist. Black Sun, which I have read, and the sequel Fevered Star, which I have not. So, yeah. That's what's behind Velocity Weapon. It's not what's behind everything else. We don't need to go into that today. That's not a today thing. Oh, God.
And now she can't get a book like
can't fit them back on the shelf. I have a whole new bookshelf that it's got one book on that shelf. The rest of it is just stuff. Doing really well with my life. No. Anyways, the next live will be on Lisa's channel. Come back to talk about the next book with us that I have not read. You haven't read the second one yet, have you?
No.
So it's first time for both of us. So that's exciting. First time. No way. So Jesus. So we'll post about the next live on X and Blue Skies and all that fun stuff, so keep an eye out on there and we will do that, but otherwise that's it, I think, for today.
Adios amigos.
Adios muchachos. Have a nice evening. This is like one of our longest lives ever, I think. We can talk, man. So yeah, see you later.
Peace out, motherfucker.
Bye. Let me end the stream. Bye.